If this reading found you today, I don't believe it's by accident. Take a moment and really arrive here, because the energy surrounding this reading feels different, stronger, more significant, almost like something has been building beneath the surface for a long time, and now it's finally ready to move. Many of you watching this have been carrying questions that don't seem to have answers yet, questions about your future, your path, a relationship, a decision, a dream that still lives in your heart, even if you've stopped talking about it. You may have been trying to figure everything out, trying to see the whole picture, trying to understand where all of this is leading. But what I'm picking up on is that you're standing between two chapters of your life. One chapter is ending, another is beginning, and the space in between can feel confusing. That's exactly why these cards have come forward today. We're going to look at 5 cards, not as separate messages, but as one story, a story about where you've been, where you are now, and what is beginning to unfold next. Take a deep breath, let's begin. Card 1. The Moon. The first card to appear is the Moon, and honestly, I couldn't imagine a more accurate card to start this reading, because the Moon appears when you're moving through uncertainty, when you're walking a path that isn't fully illuminated yet. You can see the next step, maybe even the step after that, but you can't see the destination, and for many of you, that's been the hardest part, not the challenge itself, not the work, not even the waiting, it's the not knowing, the wondering, the constant questions. Am I doing the right thing? Am I moving in the right direction? Why does everything still feel unclear? The Moon wants you to understand something important. A lack of clarity is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. Sometimes life only reveals what you're ready to see, not because you're being denied answers, but because some answers can only be understood through experience. I also feel a deep emotional energy here. An anxiety that doesn't always have a name, something you've been carrying quietly, something you don't always talk about. You wake up and it's there, you go to sleep and it's still there, and the Moon acknowledges that, but it also says this: what you're feeling isn't necessarily a warning, it may actually be a sign that you're standing close to something significant, something bigger than you realize. Card 2. The Chariot. The second card is the Chariot, and this changes the energy immediately, because after uncertainty comes movement, after questioning comes action. The Chariot is the card of determination, forward momentum, personal power. What I keep hearing is this: you are stronger than you've been giving yourself credit for. Many of you have been caught between two competing forces. One part of you wants to move forward, to grow, to take a chance, to begin a new chapter, but another part of you wants certainty, safety, control, and those two sides have been pulling you in opposite directions. It's exhausting, not physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But the Chariot appears to remind you that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement despite fear. You do not need every answer before taking the next step. You do not need perfect certainty before making a decision. You only need enough faith to keep moving. Because this card is showing me that momentum is returning to your life, and once things begin moving, they may move much faster than you expect. Card 3. Judgment. The third card is Judgment, and this is where the reading becomes powerful, because judgment is a wake-up call. It's the moment when something inside you finally says, no more. No more settling, no more shrinking, no more pretending that you're okay with something that no longer aligns with who you are. This card often appears when a person is outgrowing an old version of themselves, and that's exactly what I feel here. You've changed. More than you realize. The things you tolerated before don't feel right anymore. The things you used to chase may no longer inspire you. Your priorities are shifting, your perspective is shifting, you are shifting, and while change can feel uncomfortable, Judgment says this transformation is necessary, because you're not meant to go back to who you were, you're being called forward into who you're becoming. this card feels like a spiritual awakening for many of you, a realization, a truth. A moment of clarity that changes the way you see yourself and your future. Card 4. Wheel of Fortune. Now we come to the card that truly caught my attention, the Wheel of Fortune, and the moment this card appeared, I knew this reading was about a turning point. Because nothing stays the same when the wheel begins to turn, this card represents cycles, timing, destiny, unexpected shifts, and what I'm feeling here is that a cycle you've been stuck in is finally ending. For some of you, this could involve work, money, opportunities. For others, it may involve a relationship, a connection, or a situation that has felt frozen for far too long. What makes this card special is that the change it brings often arrives unexpectedly, not from the direction you've been watching, not from the place you've been forcing, not from the outcome you've been trying to control. It comes from somewhere else, and that's why it surprises you. I keep feeling that many of you are closer to a breakthrough than you realize. Closer to a shift, closer to a turning point. The Wheel of Fortune doesn't ask you to make everything happen. It asks you to stay open when life begins moving in a new direction. Card 5. The World, and finally, we arrive at the World. What a beautiful way to complete this story, because the World is a card of completion, achievement, fulfillment, but more importantly, it represents the successful ending of one chapter before another begins. Look at the journey these cards have shown. The Moon, walking through uncertainty, the Chariot, choosing to move forward anyway, Judgment, awakening to who you truly are. The Wheel of Fortune, watching the energy begin to shift. And now the World, the destination, the completion, the moment when everything starts making sense. This card tells me that what you've been working toward is real, the growth is real, the progress is real. Even if you haven't seen all the evidence yet, the world appears when you're much closer than you think, closer to the breakthrough, closer to the answer, closer to the new chapter, and that is exactly what I feel for you today. These 5 cards tell one powerful story, but we're not finished yet, because when I connect all of these energies together, a much deeper message begins to emerge, a message about timing, a message about unexpected opportunities, and a message about the turning point that may already be approaching your life. Stay with me, because the most important part of this reading is still to come. Now that we've looked at each card individually, I want you to step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture, because when I connect all 5 of these cards together, a very clear message begins to emerge. This is not a reading about endings. This is a reading about a turning point that has been building for much longer than you realize. What I'm picking up on is that many of you have been living in a season of waiting for clarity, waiting for change, waiting for something to finally move, and after a while, waiting becomes exhausting, not because you're impatient, but because you start wondering if anything is happening at all. You start questioning yourself, questioning your path, questioning whether all of your effort has actually been leading somewhere. But what these cards keep showing me is that movement has already begun, you just haven't been able to see it yet. Think about a seed planted beneath the ground. For weeks, sometimes months, nothing appears to happen. The soil looks exactly the same. From the outside, there is no evidence of growth, but beneath the surface, everything is changing. Roots are forming, life is expanding. Something is preparing to emerge. That is the energy surrounding this reading. Something is developing behind the scenes, and it's much closer to the surface than you think. There is another message coming through very strongly. And I feel like this part is meant for someone specific. Many of you have been trying to let go of something, a person, a dream, a situation, a possibility. You've told yourself over and over again, it's time to move on. It's time to stop thinking about this. It's time to let it go. But every time you try, something inside you keeps returning to it, and I don't believe that's accidental. Now, This doesn't necessarily mean that the situation itself is returning, but it does tell me that there is unfinished energy around it. There is still something important for you to learn, understand, or experience before that chapter is truly complete. So if you've been frustrated with yourself for not fully moving on, I want you to stop judging yourself. Sometimes the soul takes longer to release something than the mind does, and that's okay. The card that keeps pulling my attention back is the Wheel of Fortune, because this card rarely appears without a reason. The Wheel of Fortune is a reminder that cycles change, seasons change, circumstances change, and what feels permanent today can look completely different a few months from now. For some of you, I keep seeing an opportunity, something unexpected, something that creates a new path where there didn't seem to be one before. For others, I see communication, a conversation, a message, information arriving at exactly the right time. And for some of you, it's simply a shift in perspective, the moment when everything finally clicks, the moment when you suddenly understand why things happened the way they did. Whatever form it takes, the energy is the same: movement, progress, change. And here's the part that made me stop when I was reading these cards. I keep feeling that many of you are about to notice a sign, not necessarily a dramatic sign. Not something impossible to ignore, something subtle, a name you haven't seen in a long time, a song that suddenly appears everywhere, a conversation that feels strangely familiar, a coincidence that doesn't feel like a coincidence, something that catches your attention and makes you pause for a moment. And when it happens, trust your intuition, because your intuition has been trying to speak to you for a while now. The problem is not that the messages aren't there. The problem is that you've been so focused on finding answers that you've overlooked some of the smaller signals along the way. Pay attention, because I don't think these moments are random. I also feel called to say something that may be difficult for some of you to hear. The life you're stepping into may not look exactly like the one you imagined, and that's not a bad thing. Sometimes we become attached to a specific outcome, a specific person, a specific timeline, a specific vision of how everything is supposed to happen. But life often has a way of delivering the essence of what we want rather than the exact form we expected, and what I'm seeing here is something better aligned, something more stable, something more authentic, something that actually fits the person you're becoming now, not the person you used to be. That's why judgment appeared in this reading, because you've changed, and the future unfolding in front of you reflects that change. Before we finish, I want you to remember one thing. You are much closer than you think, closer to clarity, closer to resolution, closer to the next chapter, closer to the breakthrough. I know it doesn't always feel that way. I know there are days when it feels like nothing is moving. But these cards tell a different story. They tell the story of someone who kept walking even when the path wasn't clear, someone who kept growing even when progress wasn't visible, someone who continued forward despite uncertainty. And that story leads to the world, completion, fulfillment, the successful ending of one chapter and the beginning of another. And finally, I want to leave you with this. I believe that in the coming weeks, something will appear that helps everything make more sense: a conversation, an opportunity, a realization, a piece of information, a moment that seems small at first but later becomes the turning point you remember, the moment when things began to change. When it arrives, don't immediately talk yourself out of it. Don't convince yourself that it's impossible. Don't assume that you're asking for too much. Allow yourself to receive it. Allow yourself to trust it. Allow yourself to step toward it. Because the energy of this reading is not asking you to stay where you are, it's asking you to move forward. The path ahead may still be unfolding, but it is unfolding. And I truly believe that what is coming next has the power to surprise you in the best possible way. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next reading.